Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and live and those who will be watching later. I appreciate your time today. And I have some interesting things to talk about regarding plant-based diet and diabetes. Now, as a physician, obviously, I take care of a variety of patients, but most of my patients are actually diabetic, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, pre-diabetes, insulin resistant, people who are concerned about where they're headed in their metabolic health. And so I wanted to just highlight some things to think about as you may be interested on a plant-based diet and diabetes. And obviously, I'm a big fan of a plant-based diet. And think it's the number one thing you can do to improve your health is a plant-based diet. But I really want to speak to a few things why it's successful for so many people, and then some things that you may not think about that you need to be mindful of. So when I first transitioned to a whole food plant-based diet 12 years ago, I was super excited. The science was amazing. I just told people, go eat plants, right? I didn't really take into consideration being a little bit more directive with my prescription, so to speak. And so what would happen was people immediately go, I'm going to the produce aisle. So they get fruits and vegetables, which is fantastic. But they forget the things in the middle, like the whole grains, the nuts and seeds, and the beans and legumes, which are such an important part of a healthy, wide variety, um, a, a diet that encompasses a large number of different plants, right? So you want to get as many plants as you can in the week and as many colors. And so what ended up happening with these patients is they would transition to a basically fruit and vegetable diet. And then they would come back feeling very fatigued because they didn't have enough calories to sustain them. And so that gets to the number one. They lost weight, but they didn't have enough calories to sustain their energy to just do their normal daily activities. So remember, plants are often lower in calories, the lower in saturated fats, which is great for weight loss, but and improve insulin sensitivity. But I really want you to focus on incorporating all varieties of plants. So that includes fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. And I would say anywhere from a handful, like a quarter cup for women, and maybe half up to half a cup of nuts and seeds for men daily, or at least a few times a week. If you hear some sounds, that's Daisy, my dog, talking. She doesn't bark, she just squeals. And then also when you think about fiber, right? So whole plant foods are rich in fiber. They slow down sugar absorption. They reduce your blood sugar spikes, which is really important. In addition to fiber, it's really going to build up your, there's Daisy, there, it's going to really build up your microbiome, right? So this is, we've all heard about our gut and our gut health and how it encompasses everything, right? Our immune system, our emotions, everything starts in the gut, which makes sense, right? Because that's the one thing we're eating food. It's the first thing that touches our food, those things that we're intaking and feeding our body. It would make sense that the gut would be the beginning and the foundation of our health. So when you look at fiber, you can't beat the amazing things that will come from fiber. But if you're new to a plant-based diet, I know most people have been eating some plants, and you start just eating 3, 4, 5 times more than your normal amount, you may have some gastric issues. So one thing that you may see is some bloating. You might notice that you're feeling um, a little bit more gassy. And when you have these things happen, just know with time that will get better. But maybe focus in on cooking your foods and blending. That will help with the digestive issues that you might have. So, fiber is fantastic, but you might want to ease into it a little bit more. So, instead of like going straight for the black beans, if you've never eaten a lot of beans, start with lentils, right? So, kind of a great rule of thumb is the longer you have to soak them, more fiber, more resistant starch that you're going to have in those foods. They might be a little bit harder to digest. And again, start with the lentils in your bean category and go from there. Nutrient density. So plant diets are rich in antioxidants, vitamins, minerals. They combat oxidative stress, which is great in fighting the complications that come with diabetes because of excuse me, inflammation and other things that are occurring. You have lower saturated and trans fats, right? So animal products are typically high in saturated fats, which are the cause of higher cholesterol, heart disease, insulin resistance, and trans fats, which typically come from processed foods. So again, even if you're eating a quote unquote plant-based diet, there's healthful and unhealthy plant-based diets. So if you're eating the processed foods like the Oreos and the sodas, that's not a healthy plant-based diet. That's a vegan diet, a vegan junk diet, but it's not necessarily good for you. So think about the foods that you're getting. So the closer they are to the nature's packaging when they originated, that's where you want to aim. All right. And so some other things to consider as well is B12. Make sure that you're consuming a B12 supplement. And remember that B12 supplements aren't absorbed significantly. So most of the time, we have a very small amount of B12 that are required, but we have trouble with absorption in most Americans, actually, or not most, I'd say a high majority of Americans because of medications, maybe pernicious anemia. They have, or they don't have intrinsic factor, which helps move the B12 from the GI into the system, your blood system, or for absorption. So there could be several factors. Number one, metformin is used often for diabetes. It's a fine medication, but it does decrease your B12 absorption. And you're coming in as a plant-based eater with a B12 deficiency naturally because B12 is only made by bacteria. It's not made by animals, it's not made by plants. So it's really important that you supplement with B12. It's the one supplement I tell patients it's non-negotiable. And I would encourage you to take 500 to 1,000 micrograms daily and then test, don't guess, as my friend Dr. Khan would say. And the reason I would say that is because even though you may be supplementing, you may not be getting enough. Sometimes people forget, maybe they're only taking it once a week, maybe just twice a week. Maybe there's some absorption issues that they're not aware of, or if they're taking over-the-counter medications for, let's say, reflux or heartburn or GERD medications, like omeprazole, for example, that can also decrease your absorption. So make sure you're getting the B12. When you get your blood levels, you probably want your blood level minimally to be at 500. It doesn't need to be over 11 or 1200. So in there is a great way to start. So again, test, don't guess. So, and the last thing I would suggest is understanding that just like in business or your finances, things that aren't monitored aren't managed, right? So if you're not monitoring your blood sugars, it's difficult to manage them, right? Because it's difficult to understand how foods are causing blood sugars to rise or stay level, sleep, stress, all these things. So regardless if you're diabetic or have diabetes or don't have diabetes, you can benefit from having a continuous glucose monitor. So it's something that is prescribed by your physician. You certainly can have your doctor prescribe it, and I'm happy to prescribe them for my patients as well. And I am in the middle of enrollment for my next glucose mastermind, which will start next Tuesday. We meet twice a month for 3 months. I prescribe the CGM to any pharmacy of the patient's choosing within the United States, and that includes Alaska and Hawaii. Is And it's really exciting. I'm only going to take a limited number. I'm already getting filled up. So if you want to join, I would definitely encourage you to go to drmarvis.com, click on Glucose Mastermind, and sign up sooner than later because I may close it sooner if I don't get enough, if I get too many, folks, or put you on a waiting list for the next group, which I'm not sure when I'll do. So, because it is a lot of work and it's a joy to meet with people. The group that we have going now is amazing and very exciting to see them see improvements, making different changes in their life. They lose weight. So, if you're also, for example, in menopause, sometimes you'll have patients become more insulin resistant. They're losing muscle mass. They're not as active. They've gained weight. That can help patients understand or individuals understand food choices and make some different decisions throughout the day, which again, consistency and managing it and paying attention to it, being mindful of your blood sugars will lead to the weight loss, will lead to improved insulin sensitivity. So, yeah, hope that was helpful. So basically, one last thing I would mention is if you are on medications for hypertension or diabetes medications, including insulin or oral medications, specifically um, like glimepiride and things like that, you may need a rapid reduction in your medication. So please, 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 yet another reason to have a CGM, pay attention to your blood sugars because as you eat healthier and lose weight, you will need less medications. That's just the way it is. And even as a type 1 diabetic, if you have any insulin resistance and you're switching from maybe a more keto type diet to a plant-based diet, you will notice that you will require less insulin. And I can't tell you enough how very, very important it is to do that. You can always add back more insulin. It's harder to come out of, hypoglycemic state when you've taken too much insulin, because you have to wait for the insulin to do its thing and wear off or be used up, and then continue eating and not get too low. So it can be difficult. So I'd rather kind of be ahead of the curve when it comes to your blood sugars improving and removing medications appropriately. One thing that I do as a guide is, when it comes to insulin reduction, is if patients see their fasting blood sugars less than 150, that's an indication to me that we can start slowly reducing their insulin. And I have found that to be a great rail. I haven't had patients go into have hypoglycemic episodes when we take that kind of rule of thumb. So, if I don't see as a patient, but maybe take that into heart and let your doctor know, it's like, hey, my blood sugar is starting to trend under 150. Should we back off a little bit on my insulin? And have that discussion with them. And like I said, check out the Glucose Mastermind. I will be closing those doors within the next few days. And yeah, I'm hope to see you there, and it'll be a lot of fun. And I also wear the CGM, and we talk about blood sugars and things that I'm doing as well. So we will see you next time. And you guys have a wonderful and blessed day. And thanks for listening. Have a great day.